Good morning. So, as I record this in another part of the U.S., they're getting ready to have the Southern Baptist Convention. I saw some posts from friends in ministry and from seminary that were gathering around in Nashville, Tennessee. And so for the next, 3 or 4 days, they'll have the convention. And I'm sure a lot of things will get spewed out in the news and the media about, the terrible things that they're doing there, and these horrible folks. But I had the privilege of going to the Southern Baptist Convention twice so far in my life. The first time it was being held in San Antonio back in 2007. I remember me and my wife, we barely could manage everyone else that was in the same program, you might call it, in seminary as us, was able to find their way to be able to fly out to San Antonio, which for their part they probably had the better part. We were unsure of our primary transportation, so we rented a car, a little subcompact Chevy Aveo, and drove all the way from New Orleans to San Antonio, Texas. Little did we know, as soon as you got past Houston, there was like nothing. And tiny little car that the air conditioner barely could keep up with the Texas heat. But we made it, and funny enough, the first Southern Baptist Convention I went to, because of the nature of the program that we were in, it was a pilot for a model that was gonna be a good thing for years to come. We actually got to be on the platform during part of the event, and it was just an incredible experience, seeing a lot of key leaders from Southern Baptist life. The names wouldn't necessarily mean a lot to folks just in mainstream society, but they had done great things within the work of the denomination and for the churches that were contained there. The second time I got to go to an SBC, it was a totally different story. I was about 2 years out of seminary, and the first and only full-time church ministry position I had ever held was being forcibly drawn to a close. The convention was in Orlando, and I remembered all the incredible folks that I met through my first experience at the Southern Baptist Convention. So with it being in Orlando, of course, we had another child. We only had one that got to stay with the grandparents the first time we went, and the second time we had 2 kids, and so we opted, we brought my mother, their granny, along with us, and they stayed at Disney, and I would use the vehicle to scoot over to the convention in Orlando while they had fun at Disney. And I'll just say, we had some good moments from that trip, but to be honest, it was, I think the better part would have been choosing to just spend the time with my family in Orlando together. I thought I was going to come to Orlando and network and catch myself a lifeline out of the sinking ship that was my first full-time ministry position, and as soon as it seemed like as soon as people started to realize where I was, it was I kind of related to the man with the many different people in Scripture that had leprosy, and they would just, you might as well have someone behind me calling unclean, unclean as I walked through the crowd. I didn't really make any connections, and long story short, about 6 months later, we had moved out of the town that church was in, and we're back up in northeast Louisiana, scrounging around for any part-time or piecemeal jobs that we could put together until we could find something more constant or stable. But all that said, both experiences, being at the highest of highs and the lowest of lows to go to a convention, I still wouldn't trade it for anything. I still think that as a Southern Baptist, we have something distinctive and unique that not a lot of other denominations can claim, and I think it has worked quite well for many generations, and I don't know. I think most people from the outside looking in do not have an understanding of how things in that denomination work. They think it's just like any other religious denomination, and that some diocese or some hierarchy is pronouncing what has to be and what has to be done, and that is not the case in Southern Baptist life. But it's not so free will autonomous to where it's constant bickering or infighting amongst the churches either. They are churches that believe in the autonomy of the local body, but out of love and a common and shared mission, decide to partner and associate voluntarily with one another. Despite any differences, generally holding to the same basic issues theologically as far as salvation is concerned, and deciding to partner together for the work of the kingdom.